Hello, and welcome to Remember the Film, the podcast where we discuss movies and all the things that make them memorable. It's Christmas time, so we're doing a Christmas episode. And, well, happy holidays to everybody and all that. But as you can see, Josh and I are very enthusiastic about Christmas, and Hugo is not because he's a Grinch.
I'm not a Grinch. I just didn't happen to have something Christmassy on me, and I forgot. So
and note to the podcast listeners, we also are on video, so check us out on video, so you know what Grizz is talking about.
Yeah, I'm wearing nice Christmas PJs and a Santa hat, and Josh has got
I have a snowman onesie.
Yeah, it's
and
brilliant.
It's a onesie.
I am wearing a white shirt. But hey, look.
For snow, right?
Look, hang on. But I have an X-Wing that my mum got me for Christmas last year, so that counts.
That's Christmas.
The Christmas traditions of X-Wings.
That's Christmassy.
Yes.
It's orange, not red, but it's still Christmassy.
Well,
everyone knows the classic Italian Christmas tradition,
color, right? Yeah.
The Italian Christmas tradition is X-Wings at Christmas.
Is X-Wings. X-Wings at Christmas, yes, exactly. That's, thousands of years of that. Since
Red
Roman
2,
times.
chucking in.
Yep.
All right. Well, this week our film to remember is "It's a Wonderful Life."
Sorry. Just before we jump into that, unfortunately I have a family thing, so I can't really stick around for the whole podcast. So I'll just be around for film to remember.
We'll enjoy you while we have you.
Tiny little segment after that, and then Josh and Grizz will carry you over to
we'll land
the rest
the ship.
of the.
Well,
of
and we're the
show.
ones who like Christmas anyways, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so "It's a Wonderful Life" came out in 1946. At the time that it came out, it was a box office flop. The company that made it, Liberty Films, had borrowed $1.5 million in their efforts to make it, and then they only made $3.3 million against the total budget of $3.7 million. So, not only they borrowed money to make it happen, and then they didn't even capitalize on that. So it was, despite receiving Oscar nominations and being okay with critical reception, it didn't do very well and faded into obscurity, more or less, after its release. In 1974, Republic Pictures, who owned the copyright at that time, forgot to file the renewal on the copyright for
Classic.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Right.
And as such, the movie went into public domain here in the United States, and that allowed every network to air the movie as much as they want for no cost.
Isn't it crazy how little things like that lead to a movie becoming one of the biggest things, in the cultural consciousness? That's crazy to me.
It's insane, and because they were able to start airing it for free, they literally it was on all the time on just different channels. So at Christmas time, everyone is desperate for more Christmas content to put on their networks. So the fact that they could get this movie for free, they put it on everywhere.
Yes. And so now they're trying to oversaturate a Christmas story in the same way, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Despite the original audience not being completely drawn to it because of its whimsical nostalgia, which the director Capra believed was something that the people would want after World War II, but it turns out that was not really what the people were looking for. The worldviews had changed post World War II, and the nostalgia for the good old American way was damaged a little bit. So the people didn't respond to the movie quite as well when it came out. But whimsical nostalgia is perfect for a Christmas movie, especially decades later. And so then it became, as Josh said, became a Christmas staple. Eventually, Republic Pictures recovered the copyright due to a legal precedence that said that basically, since they still owned the rights to the original story that the movie was based on, and they owned the rights to the score, that essentially they still owned the movie. So then they got the rights back for the movie, and since then, only NBC has been able to broadcast "It's a Wonderful Life" because they bought the exclusive rights to air it.
I am understanding all of this. I know what NBC is, and
So NBC's a channel.
Is it a TV channel? What is it?
It's technically a communications company, if we're being specific. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And And so
Right.
so it airs a couple of times a year now, just on NBC.
Okay.
So it's become such a
Does
Christmas
NBC
tradition.
run? Question: Does NBC, this channel that has the right, does it run the colorized version or the black and white version?
I only ever see the black and white. I know that they did release the colorized version at one point, but even now I think the black and white one is the more popular.
Yeah, because the version I
Agreed,
saw,
yeah.
because here it's available on Sky, is the colorized version, and it looks hideous. It looks terrible. It just looks bad. But yeah, I went back and saw
I've seen
scenes on YouTube,
yeah,
and it
I've
just
seen
looks
both.
so much better
Yeah.
in the black and white.
I don't think I've
I like
ever
it
seen a
better in black and
colorized
white,
version,
I guess.
actually, now that I think about it.
They're both on Amazon Prime right now in the United States.
Well,
Grace, you can watch
it
either
wouldn't
one.
hurt to watch the colorized version again.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, so what are our thoughts? What do you guys think of It's a Wonderful Life?
Who wants
It's
to start?
awesome.
I can start.
It's really good. I feel like it's such an idiot just being like, oh yeah, this movie that's beloved by millions of people and has been for decades. Yeah, it's really good. You should check it out. But it's true. I actually so this week was the first time I'd ever actually seen it start to finish. It is like such a holiday classic that I've seen bits and pieces of it over the years, and like I'm aware of, all the scenes that have just seeped into cultural consciousness. I get that, but like this was the first time I ever actually watched it start to finish, and we can talk about this more later, but I didn't know how little of the movie was him wishing he was dead and seeing the world without him, just because like that is kind of like the main legacy of the movie that like has been overdone in homages on like TV shows and stuff, where like a character will go through that exact experience. Like I'm thinking of like Chucky Finster in Rugrats has this, George Bailey, I wish I was dead, what would the world look like experience. So like that's what you see 1,000 times over and over again, but that's only like the last like half hour of the movie, and like the first 90 minutes is not that at all, and that surprised me a lot, actually.
Yeah, they really drove home that everything bad that could happen to George Bailey happens to George Bailey. And that was like the first 2/3 of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, so
what do you think of it?
For me, it was a surprise how much I actually really, really, really enjoyed this film, and how
It's
it
really
just
good.
got
It's
me
really
emotionally.
good.
Yes, it is really good, but also I'm sort of I'm a 24-year-old, lefty skeptical type person, and I thought, oh god, I'm going into this movie where angels are real, and the good capitalists helps out the poor people, and I going into it, I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm not going to enjoy this, but it just got me. It's just so well made, and the protagonist is so likable, and you just want to hug him. You want him to have a good life and to improve. And I think and what I think really works about the movie is this feeling, and it's something that movies would do maybe in a way that's more relatable to my generation much later. But there's this universal idea of feeling stuck in the place that you are, and feeling like you wasting your time, and you want to do something else but you just can't because you have commitments. And on that level, it's spotless. It just still works so well. And I was honestly, I was surprised by that, and it really got me. And at the end, I was just crying, and it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'll mention that the ending. Again, I've seen this movie in pieces over the years. I've seen the ending scene probably a dozen times, but I'd never actually seen the whole movie before it. And even though I knew exactly what the ending was, I've seen it all before. Seeing the ending, as the conclusion of this 2-hour, 10-minute journey, I cried watching the ending as well. Even though I don't think I've ever cried at the ending before, but I did this time, and I think that's a testament to how good the payoff is. It feels so cliche at this point because I've seen it so many times, but like once you actually see it as the payoff to the setup, you're like, oh my god, this is fantastic. It's so good. Great ending.
You see everything he goes through his whole life, and the fact that everything bad that can happen happens to him, but he's still so good, and all of his life he works and he does the best that he can to help the people of his city.
And I also like that he, he's, like you said, he's very likable, and he's going through a lot. He isn't always a flawless guy, though.
No.
Like he's kind of he takes out his
He's
anger
human.
on his wife and his kids. He doesn't hit them or anything like that, but he's still a
loses
flawed
hope.
character. He loses hope,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot longer for him to lose that hope than you would think for a guy who has been through as much disappointment as George Bailey has. And so, I think that's part of what makes it so relatable is that we all lose hope sometimes. Bad things happen, and it can bring you down. But I think, and what this movie shows, and what makes it such a quintessential Christmas experience, is that through relying on our friends and our family, that you can weather any obstacle. And
Yes.
I just love it so much.
Yeah. And it's also like, I realize, Hugo, I take your point about how it's kind of, a universal thing of yearning for more and feeling stuck. Like, I relate to that a lot. Lady Bird is one of my favorite movies of the last decade, and that's kind of Lady Bird's thing, she wants to get out of Sacramento. But the movie's also like an ode to small town America, very much so. And the characters all care about each other. They're all neighbors, and you see, especially when the sequence at the end when he is dead, and the things that the trickle down things of his absence, what they did to the townspeople, and then obviously the townspeople show up at the very end to save the day. It's a really nice version of small town life that I think it's kind of like the movie is kind of, its thesis is kind of pushing back on George's desire to leave it behind, thinking that there's more out there. I mean, really, yeah, maybe there's more out there, but also you got a lot here. The people around you are a lot, and to Grizz's point, it's about how the people who love you can get you through anything. It's great stuff.
On
that note, I really like Donna Reed's performance in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little overlooked sometimes because of how great Jimmy Stewart is. But she is a loving wife who is supportive and understanding, even when he's being kind of a jerk. And also, it's worth noting that she was, I believe, like 25 when this was made, and she plays the 17-year-old at the dance all the way through, her, the older version of herself. Meanwhile, Jimmy Stewart was like 38 when this movie was made. And he played a
22-year-old.
Played a 22-year-old.
I was very confused at the beginning, I have to be honest, because I was like, it wasn't very clear to me. I thought he was coming back from college, or he had already gone to college. I was like, oh, so this guy's 21, 22. That's okay. Yeah, sure.
And
that
so,
works.
I mean, they almost get away with it. Like, I'm kind of surprised.
He's very youthful.
He is very youthful,
demeanor,
and I think that's kind of crazy because you think of the other classic Jimmy Stewart roles. He's kind of a crotchety guy.
Yeah.
even when even not as an old man, but So I actually thought it was a really good performance by him to actually play off that the different ages that he goes through. But I also thought that Donna Reed did a great job with that.
She's great, absolutely great in this. Yeah. How much is this a Christmas movie, though?
That is a great question.
Yeah. Discuss Christmas movie status.
I think it is. It's very much a Christmas movie. The degree to which it is a Christmas movie is less than, say,
you might think,
A Christmas Carol or any of the versions of A Christmas Carol.
even though it's literally a Christmas Carol. There's this being from another world that gets to him and shows him a world where he doesn't exist, or shows him an alternative to the reality. It's very much both taking inspiration from A Christmas Carol.
Ebenezer Scrooge and George Bailey both get to step outside themselves and see themselves through other people's eyes, or the world with them or without them. Yeah, it's a very, very good observation.
I think this is definitely very much a story that occurs at Christmas. And I think it's what makes it a Christmas movie. The thing that makes it a Christmas movie is that it captures the spirit of Christmas through what the story it's telling. The story is universally relevant regardless of the time of year, but particularly around the holidays, it's something that people think about. And so I think, and it may be interesting to discuss whether or not we associate these sentiments as Christmassy because of movies like It's a Wonderful Life being so prevalent at Christmas time for us growing up, or are they actually inherently Christmassy?
I wonder because I do
both,
feel
I
like a
guess.
lot of the film isn't at Christmas. It's really
Like the
only
front half.
yeah. I mean, it's really only the big climax that is set at and around Christmas. But because it's become such a beloved Christmas movie, because they always play it at Christmas, it sort of becomes more of a Christmas movie than it actually is, just because of the position that it took culturally.
Well,
I think that the ending is like it's a big ending, and it's kind of like you walking out of this movie, you're thinking about the ending a lot.
Yeah, that's the part,
like kind of
the big part
the
you
lasting.
remember.
Yeah, that's what's gonna stay with you, and that is very much, obviously they're standing in front of a Christmas tree, the bell rings, like that. I think the ending is probably
bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
way to go, Clarence.
Way to go, Clarence.
So I think that the lasting impact of the ending is what really solidifies this as a Christmas movie, even though only like the last hour or so is Christmassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it qualifies as a Christmas movie.
For sure.
I know that the
absolutely.
director didn't think of it as a Christmas movie when he made it.
Yes.
And
Fun fact: Frank Capra said this was like his favorite of his movies he made, which that's saying something.
That's
Frank
saying
Capra made
something.
some classics. Yeah. So there you go. So I know that. Speaking of whether this is or isn't a Christmas movie, I know we're going to play a game about that, but before we do, I guess we need to rank this.
Yeah, so where do we rank It's a Wonderful Life on our film to remember list? Right now, the ranking
run
is...
down the list? Yeah.
It's Citizen Kane, The Thing, Rudy, Mank, Jackie Brown, The Sugarland Express, and then The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone.
3, The Revenge. You have to finish that. 3, The Revenge. That's the end.
Right.
Electric Boogaloo.
I am.
Yes.
I'm debating whether this goes ahead of or right behind The Thing. So this takes the 2 or the 3 spot for me.
Yeah, for me, it's still a bit weird because of the list is shared. I don't like this more than Jackie Brown, but I do like this more than Mank and Rudy. So I think I would put it below The Thing.
I think for me, I would put it above The Thing.
So I'm the deciding vote whether it goes above or below The Thing. Okay. Oh man.
So are we gonna have 2 40s films in our as our top 2?
Actually, I'm gonna take a step back. I'm gonna put it below The Thing, and the reason for that being that there are editing issues in It's a Wonderful Life where they do hard cuts in the middle of a scene. And now, someone's holding papers in a different hand or, and I know that was a much more common thing in that time period. And so I'm not going to hold it against it and say that it's bad editing. But that does stick out to me. When I think about the movie and I don't think about The Thing.
Let the record show I was about to put it above The Thing. So it was Griz's Grinchness that took it down to number 3. So not my fault that it's number 3.
Is it your final choice, Grizz?
Sorry?
Final choice, Grizz?
I think final choice. I think I would have to. I think The Thing is a better made movie. Overall.
But the It's a Wonderful Life is better than Rudy.
Yeah.
2 Notre Dame grads here, put it above Rudy. I mean, I think that's okay. Absolutely.
I think that's fine. Okay, so number 3, It's a Wonderful Life. Okay, so now we're gonna do a fun game. Before Hugo has to go.
Yep.
I'm calling this segment "So This Is Christmas," which of course is referencing the John Lennon song
War is over.
War is over. But so this is Christmas. And the question is this Christmas? And we're going to go over a whole bunch of movies and we're going to decide whether or not they qualify as Christmas movies. And we're just going to kind of go through it, fairly quickly. You can say a little bit about them, but let's not get bogged down on it.
Yeah.
The first, The Apartment. Have you guys seen The Apartment?
I have. It's
not.
amazing. If you haven't seen The Apartment, see The Apartment. It's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic movie. Is it a Christmas movie?
I'm gonna see it soon for sure. Because I was actually it was in my plans to watch Billy Wilder movies. I've only seen Sunset Boulevard.
I say
so I'm definitely watching.
I say no because I saw it like a year or two ago, and I don't remember Christmas being a factor, so I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a Christmas movie. It's another movie that definitely a large portion of it takes place at Christmas, but the fact that it's at Christmas has almost nothing to do with the plot of the movie whatsoever. Love Actually.
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
come on.
I think so too. I mean, it might not be the through line of the story, but everything is happening.
No, but I mean,
at Christmas time
happening
because it's
at
Christmas time.
Yes. Come on.
Okay. The Harry Potter movies.
Okay. Okay.
Some of them.
Right.
Yes.
Some
the
of them.
first one has major Christmas vibes, and
And there's a
a big
significant portion
part
of the movie
the
takes
scene-
place.
place at
You know,
Christmas.
like
And it's
they have a
also
scene where they
directed
exchange
by the same,
presents.
and it's also directed by Chris Columbus, who also
Yeah.
directed Home Alone.
Yes.
So
The first
I'm-
two are Chris Columbus.
yeah, but the first one has a big
And
a
they
big,
also
big Christmas scene.
the first two also featured more Christmas stuff than the
Yeah,
later movies.
yeah. That's
But the
interesting.
real reason I
never
ask
thought
about
it
this
that way.
is because the Harry Potter franchise plays on repeat on some channels at Christmas time
At Christmas.
every
Well,
year since the
I
movies
think
came
it,
out.
So
it
I-
has
I-
a warmth to it that works at Christmas, even if it isn't necessarily about Christmas or even a Christmas thing. But
There's a lot of
Christmas
candles.
does feature quite a lot in
The
the
candles.
film. So I think the first one for sure, you could possibly qualify it as a Christmas film.
And
I don't think I
Fourth
would.
one as well.
I don't think I
Well,
would.
the Goblet of Fire has the Yule Ball. The Goblet of Fire has the Yule Ball.
True.
And also, like,
Yeah.
some of these movies came out, like, Thanksgiving weekend, which makes them more Christmas movies, but some of them also came out during the summer. So, like, I'd have to, like, go back and check. Like, I
Yeah.
know that Sorcerer's Stone and Goblet of Fire both came out in late November. So, like, I could call both of them Christmas movies, but I don't know. I think it depends.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Gremlins.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it, but yes.
I haven't seen
know
it in
that it
so
is.
long, so it's really
Yes.
tough for me to,
I mean,
to tell.
Yeah, but it's around. I mean, the whole story is the father gets his kid this weird pet at around Christmas. So, I mean, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
Christmas
so it's a
movie.
story that
Sure.
is instigated by Christmas, but is it a
by
Christmas
and it.
story?
I think it is. I think it is. Yes. Come on.
Okay. Frozen.
Is there Christmas in Frozen? I don't even
No.
remember.
No, there isn't.
I said
But
no.
it came up.
It's-
I was
okay.
looking through multiple lists of movies that are they Christmas movies lists, and multiple lists suggested that Frozen is considered by some to be a Christmas movie
Right. Why? Because it has snow.
because it
in
has snow and a reindeer,
Right.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's-
Frozen's
yeah,
not a Christmas movie.
That's a no.
Well, they also, like, released, like, a Frozen Christmas special centered on Olaf. that
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure
that's
they
a
did.
playing on
Christmas
my
movie.
TV.
Yeah, it uses
like a Christmas, like,
Christmassy
hour-long special.
imagery, maybe, but it's not a Christmas movie. Come on.
They use winter imagery,
Yeah.
but not, you know.
Yeah, but like this. Yes. Okay. But the
Wildly
snowman with the
changing,
carrot,
wildly changing genres.
genres.
Lethal Weapon.
1000%. Anything
I was
written
gonna-
or directed by Shane Black
Is
is
a Christmas movie.
Yes.
I don't
I was
care.
going to bring up Shane Black because, yeah, Kiss
I-
Kiss Bang Bang also is a Christmas movie.
Die
I think The Nice
Hard.
Guys also, is that a Christmas movie? Well, Shane Black had nothing to do with Die Hard.
Yeah, he
but
didn't
No,
do it. He
yeah,
didn't
Shane
do
but
Black
I
has
mean,
said-
it's the same.
Shane Black has said that he likes to set his movies at Christmas just because he likes the lights and just likes
Yeah.
to give it that kind of specificity and that kind of
Yeah,
thing. So
and even
yes,
Iron Man 3
Lethal
is
Weapon
around.
Christmas
I was going to
movie.
say that's another one I had on my list was
Christmas
Iron Man
too, which is,
3.
Yeah.
And
I
as long
think
as we're
Iron
on
Man
top of
3 is
Kiss Kiss Bang
100%.
Bang. Yes.
I think Iron Man
Yeah.
3 is a Christmas
Yes.
movie. The Nightmare Before Christmas.
100%.
I mean, I think so too, but there are people who argue that
actually-
it's a Halloween movie.
Well, I fight people on this, and I have been for years, and I will continue to. It's a Halloween movie for the first 10 minutes, and then it's a
Yeah.
Christmas movie for the following 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
It also
yes,
has
they have a
Christmas
song
in
called-
the title.
Yes. They have a song called This Is Halloween, but again, that's in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So play that all you like in October, but then shut up because it's a Christmas movie after that.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
I've spoken.
I have spoken. This is the way.
Da-da-dum, da-da-dum,
Edward
da-da-dum.
Scissorhands.
Uh,
This is another movie I haven't seen in
don't
ages. So, like, since I was a
okay,
child.
Edward. Yeah, it has. I think it has a Christmas part, but I don't think about it as a Christmas movie at all.
He does make
it's sort
some
of
pretty wicked ice sculptures.
Yeah, but I mean,
I haven't seen Edward Scissorhands, but I think that Tim Burton has a pretty Christmassy aesthetic. I know that like Batman Returns,
which is the next movie on my list.
Yes, it is. So, spoiler alert, I think that is. Yeah. Sweeney Todd has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, but I kind of like associate that with Christmas a little bit, just because like when it came out, and also like again the aesthetic is kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Edward Scissorhands. I don't have a comment, but I just think that Tim Burton has a Christmassy aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then Batman Returns. I didn't think it was a Christmas movie when I watched it as a kid. Like I never would have dreamed of considering it one, but I've watched it 2 times in the last like 3 years, and I 100% believe that this is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Home Alone. I mean, I think it is.
100%.
What?
This is one that people question because
100%.
It happens at Christmas time, and the impetus for him being alone is because the family went away for Christmas, but the through line of the story has very little to do with Christmas, according to some people.
Who are those people?
They're wrong.
No,
they are wrong people.
I mean, like maybe the key scene in the movie is him at the church, and he meets his neighbor who's watching his granddaughter sing in the choir. Like that's the crux of the movie right there, and it's like
it's 100%
all about
Christmas
and being with family and that kind of
Same with Home Alone 2.
Plus, like John Williams' score.
Oh, God,
and John Williams' score, like if you listen to like a Christmas Pandora station, John Williams' score from Home Alone will come up a lot
all the time,
and rightfully so. It's fantastic. All the bells in it. Somewhere in My Memory is the song that I love. That's just like there are Christmas songs in the movie. Like
that
it's a Christmas
might
movie.
be
100%.
actually, just to bring it back, it might be why the Christmas scenes are so strong in Harry Potter, because there's that John Williams theme that he does, for the Harry Potter scenes during Christmas that is very recognizable and very Christmassy. So I think that might
very
be one of the
bell
reasons
heavy
why,
again.
Okay, I have not seen this next movie. I don't know if you guys have. Eyes Wide Shut.
I have seen it.
I haven't seen it, but it's definitely a Christmas movie. Yes.
You think it is? Like this one?
I haven't seen it, but I'm planting a flag that yes, it's a Christmas movie.
What?
Very confidently.
I
don't know. This is a game, Hugo. Just roll.
Okay. So it isn't.
I don't know.
In my
I would
opinion,
argue it has just a little bit too much orgy for a Christmas movie. So
then you and I have different Christmases. Then.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't think it's a Christmas movie because the Christmas is very, very, very much in the background.
The Sound of Music.
I have no idea, but I'm going to say yes.
You guys have okay. Well, I don't think it is. I think that it has an association at Christmas. Part of the movie does take place at Christmas, but again, I think it's a movie that aired a bunch at Christmas time for decades, and so it became associated with the Christmas season more than it is actually a Christmas movie. L.A. Confidential.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, if you haven't seen LA Confidential, you're missing out so much. That movie fucking
really
rules.
Good.
So yeah.
Meet Me in St. Louis. This is on several lists as one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time. But
I have no idea what that is.
Judy Garland.
So despite being from St. Louis, I actually haven't seen Meet Me in St. Louis, so I can't comment.
I haven't either, but I do know that
Yes.
Meet Me in St. Louis is where the Judy Garland sings "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" or something like that. She sings one of the Christmas carols in that movie, and it's like one of the ones that you
Judy
hear
Garland song,
on the radio all the time.
Yes.
Is from her. Okay, how about Babe, the movie about the pig, Babe?
I don't remember a Christmas scene in Babe. But...
The duck gets very upset because he discovers that Christmas dinner. Like he could be Christmas dinner, and it's a big scene in the movie that Christmas is carnage.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I've seen it when I was a kid.
I saw Babe as a very young child and don't remember Christmas at all, so I'm going to say no on that one.
Okay, well I think we should all think about watching Babe again.
Have we already talked about Die Hard?
No, we haven't. I didn't want to talk about Die Hard because you were going to bring it up.
Yeah, but
later.
Then I have to leave,
Die Hard,
so I don't have time.
Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Movie?
Yes.
I've come around on that.
Sure.
I've come around to say sure, it is.
And okay, I'm not going to have time for this because I really have to go. But I mean, Die Hard is a story about an estranged father coming back to his family and the family eventually reuniting. when you boil it down to that, it's kind of a Christmassy story, despite all the blood and guts and whatever that
He's
happens in the
basically
middle.
George Bailey, is what you're saying. John McClane.
Basically
John McClane is George Bailey.
He is. He's the common man, and you want everything good to happen to him because he's nice.
And there's a significant
him.
number of
He's
Christmas-related
relatable.
jokes in that movie.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole setup is he's going at this Christmas party in the office, and the Christmas party gets taken over by, and the reason why they can take over the whole, building is because it's a Christmas party, so only the people in that office are there. So yeah,
All right.
It's framed around Christmas. It's
Well,
Christmas.
So this is a good spot for Hugo to jump out.
Yes,
I'm afraid.
unfortunately, I really have to go. But yeah, have a good time, guys, and
And you can
yeah,
go ahead and
I'll
disconnect,
listen.
Hugo.
yeah, I'll listen to it.
Hopefully the
when-
camera changes
when
I
it's
made
done.
will work.
Hopefully, bye.
Merry
Everyone.
Christmas, Hugo.
Bye, Hugo. Fingers
Okay.
crossed. Okay.
Yes, I fixed it.
Uh,
It works. And you can't see it, Josh, but
Good job,
in the
Grizz,
third
our
frame,
technician.
there's a nice warm fireplace.
All right, beautiful. Good job.
Well, so let's get into our actual topic,
Yes,
which, and I have Hugo's nominations here, but
I do too.
we were just going to pick. We were going to pick some of our personal winter holiday favorites. Not necessarily the movies that we think are the best Christmas movies or the best holiday movies, but ones that we really enjoy and that we hope that other people will enjoy too.
So, tell me if you're the same way. My family, so I have two brothers, and whenever we're home for Christmas, we like to watch the same movies over and over again. We have like a list of movies that we really try to get to every Christmas season. And there are some that like we can't not watch, and some like it'd be nice to watch. But like we are that kind of family where like we try to watch these movies every year. Are you guys like that?
So we were growing up for sure. Since my brother moved up to Indiana, and I'm still down here in Texas, and my dad is up in Indiana with him most of the time. So we go the Christmas season. Like I only actually get to see my family for at most like a week at Christmas. So
Same.
we don't
Yeah,
watch as
same.
many Christmas movies as we did growing up for sure. As a kid, I even asked my dad this last night. I asked him, were there any Christmas movies that we watched every year growing up? And he said, well, It's a Wonderful Life. And that was the only one that I knew that we had watched, because I've watched it basically every year since I was
Makes
like
sense.
12. So,
Yeah.
but other than
And
that,
yet that's not on your list here.
well, no, because again, it's because we already talked about it, So I wanted
Fair.
to
Fair,
shine
fair.
a spotlight on some other Christmas movies, because It's a Wonderful Life is my favorite Christmas movie, and if not just because of how often we've watched it with my family and all that sentiment that's attached with that.
Right.
But it was like that. I watch Home Alone and Home Alone 2 every year. I don't
Fantastic.
necessarily do that
Yeah.
with my family anymore, but we used to watch those all the time growing up.
Yeah.
There's some Christmas movies that just were never part of our family's Christmas repertoire, like A Christmas Story. I did not watch that movie. The first time I watched it all the way through was earlier this week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd seen parts of it because it was always on
I don't know how
24
you
hours a
missed
day.
it. Yeah.
I mean, it was always on 24
yeah,
hours a day,
exactly.
and so
Yeah, yeah.
I'd see part of it here and there, and it just never clicked
Well,
with me.
you and I are old enough to remember a time before the 24-hour Christmas Story
Yes.
airings. That's a fairly recent phenomenon, like relatively speaking.
I was gonna say it's been like 10 years at least. But
Yeah, but like you and I are older than 10, so
This
we
is
remember
true.
a time before that. Yes.
the other one, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna get into the list, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say another one that I watch every year is Elf. Obviously, that's a newer
Me too. Yes.
Christmas
So,
movie.
That's not on either of our lists, but that's a seminal classic now. Even though it's less than 20 years old, but like I watch it every year now.
Yeah,
my brothers,
and it's
for sure.
it's this genre of Christmas movies, and I don't know why it's not listed as a genre on like movie tracking sites like IMDb or Letterboxd. You can't just search by Christmas movies. I don't know why, because it's definitely its own genre. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's so hard to get into the pantheon of great Christmas movies because there's so many of them, and so many of
Agreed.
them are like even the worst Christmas movie is usually still kind of okay because they're cashing in on your Christmas spirit. But it's really hard
That's
to
Hallmark's
be.
MO, man.
That's Hallmark's. That's their entire existence is that.
Which I love me some Hallmark Christmas movies. I'm not throwing shade at all.
I've enjoyed quite a few myself. Like I said,
Yes.
they're always
yes,
pretty
yes.
fun. They're very Christmassy. But it's hard to get into the pantheon of like actually considered great Christmas movies, and Elf did that. And there's so few new Christmas movies because, like we said, people watch the same ones year after year. How do you find time to work in the new ones?
It takes some time to percolate down. Elf wasn't like a Christmas classic in 2005 when it was only 2 years old, but now that we're 17 years removed, but also like it's interesting Elf is kind of a case study in its own, just because like that was Will Ferrell's first starring role. That was pre-Anchorman. He'd only been in supporting roles before that. Is that
right?
So like, yes.
Holy cow.
In Old School, he's a supporting character, and that was 2 years earlier. And that was also like, you look at the fact that Jon Favreau directed that, and like look at his importance to the media landscape today, 17 years later. It really is interesting to look at Elf as like a time capsule of talent at the start of their paths. So I think that you may be more inclined to revisit Elf because of Will Ferrell and the fact that it's a Christmas movie. You're like, oh, let's just watch Elf at Christmas. But yeah, I watched that one too, and I think it's great. And I think I take your point about it cracking the Christmas pantheon. That's not as easy to do as you might think.
Okay, well, so let's go with your first contribution for a favorite holiday film.
Now that I'm looking at my list, the two movies I have listed here aren't necessarily ones I revisit every year, but they are ones that I have loved for many, many years at this point. So my first one, I'm going to go with The Santa Claus, which is the 1994 movie starring Tim Allen, where he
definitely a Christmas classic.
Santa after. Yeah, honestly, like that's one that I remember watching a lot as a kid, like even not in the Christmas season. I think like maybe my grandma had a VHS or something like that, and I was like watch it when I went over to her house or something like that. And like it's one that I'm very pleased to revisit as an adult and realize how well it holds up. And like it's actually like I think this is actually a really good movie, and I think it's really funny. It's a very clever conceit. I love like the scenes of the North Pole. Like I think it's imaginative, and it's also just a good character arc for our guy Tim Allen, Scott Calvin. And yeah, it's awesome, and I'm really happy that like my niece is starting to watch this movie. She's 3.
It's another one that
movie I loved as a kid. She's starting to like.
God, that's such a great feeling.
Yeah.
I do wonder with the Santa Claus if there was a rash of children shoving their dads who were dressed as as Santa or off of buildings or anything like that. What do you think? Was there a rash of Santa murders?
A rash of patricide because of the Santa Claus? I doubt it, but maybe. Someone recently, who was it the wave that the Santa does as he's about to disappear is kind of creepy.
It's a little weird.
About that with someone. Yeah, but no. I think the Santa Claus is great, and like honest, again, it's a movie I loved as a kid, and I'm always so pleased whenever I watch something I loved as a kid, and I still like it a lot as an adult, and that definitely qualifies.
100%. I'll go ahead and share Hugo. Hugo already mentioned his first pick was Die Hard, and he gave some of his thoughts on it already. I'll just kind of echo that sentiment. I think that it is fun. Part of what is making Die Hard into a Christmas movie, and it's becoming harder and harder to argue that it's not, is because so many people so fervently believe that it is a Christmas movie, and they watch it every year at Christmas, and so it's earning its Christmas status. And of course, it's just a fun movie. There's
Sure.
No one's gonna say Die Hard is the best movie of all time, but actually, some people might.
I mean, it honestly is like an action movie template for 100%. Just decades to come. Like the early '80s was like Sly Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, these amazingly roided, I don't want to say roided out, but like these giant behemoth men, and then John McClane is like this everyman.
Yeah.
And like the everyman up against the bad guys, it kind of became like the thing going forward. I don't have as much of a personal relationship with Die Hard as a lot of people do. I've only seen it like once or twice, but yeah, I'm absolutely on board calling it a Christmas movie. I don't think people need to get so heated about it, but it's great. It's a great movie. Yeah.
And then the other one, I'll just go ahead and share Hugo's other one real quick. The other one he had on his list was Nightmare Before Christmas, which we talked a bit about earlier.
Yeah, I just complained about people getting too animated about Die Hard being a Christmas movie, and 15 minutes ago I got really animated about people calling Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie. So maybe I should take my own advice. But absolute Christmas movie, and a really good one.
Yeah, and it's also just phenomenal in that it is the claymation, and that is a staple of Christmas. Is the claymation Christmas specials is such an iconic thing, And
I never connected that. Yeah.
There's so few claymation movies in general these days, and it's been that way even since when Nightmare Before Christmas first came out. There really weren't that many claymation movies anymore because it's an art form that is so time consuming and requires so much commitment, and for movie studios it's more costly than just animating a movie, so people have shifted away from that. So I always really enjoy going back to Nightmare Before Christmas as well, for those reasons. The first one that I was going to suggest...
Shout out Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, excellent movie. Excellent movie.
Yeah, I just want to shout out Fantastic Mr. Fox. Talking about stop motion, great movie. I love that movie. Sorry.
The first one I wanted to suggest was The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Now, I'm mad that you took this one from me.
I know that
because
it's a lot of people's favorites.
This is the Christmas movie for me. This is the one we watch every year. This is if we watch nothing else, it must be Muppet Christmas Carol.
So I have watched, bunches of variations of A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens book. So one thing that I really appreciate about the Muppet Christmas Carol is that they work in all the fun of the Muppets and jokes and some slapstick humor and all those great things you come to expect from the Muppets, but they also remain extremely faithful to the story of A Christmas Carol, including the lines that are delivered. Michael Caine, is delivering lines straight out of the book, and even the second spirit, the ghost of Christmas Present, come in and know me better, man. That's That's I love that.
Did I already say that?
Did I already say that? I love that whole scene, and that
I'm a large absent-minded spirit.
And so I appreciate the movie for being so faithful to the source material while adding something so unique and special.
Yeah, and they're kind of like, they're not dumbing down the material at all, but they're like acknowledging that this is for kids. Like I'm thinking about The Marleys Were Dead to begin with. And like they kind of wink at that as the opening line, and like Rizzo gives commentary on that being the opening line. By the way, the idea to put Gonzo and Rizzo as like the narrators of the story, inspired choice.
I love it so much.
Absolutely inspired choice. That like again, to your point, it lets you be faithful to the book and like really kind of like walk kids through what this story is and like provide commentary for it and like jokes about it, but also like still be faithful to it. Really entertainingly so.
And just the casting of the Muppets in their specific roles is just perfect.
Yes.
Like Sam Eagle as the teacher.
Yeah.
Ah, perfect.
It is the British way. I could just quote any line. I'm sorry. I'll try to do this less, but the movie's very important to me. It's a very, very important movie to me.
So I'm sorry I beat you to it, but yeah, it's...
But also to your point, like, not only do I think is this the best Muppet movie, which is saying something, the Muppet movies are also just across the board important to me. I think this is like low key, maybe the best version of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, it's definitely in the photo for sure. Mm-hmm. I will say I watched recently the Jim Carrey animated Christmas Carol, and I was shocked at how faithful that was to the source material as well. And like Jim Carrey apparently voiced the majority of the characters. I did not know he was such a talented voice actor, so I'll give a shout out to that as an underrated version of A Christmas Carol. But yeah, the Muppet Christmas Carol is, I will watch that over any other version of A Christmas Carol every time.
And that's also one growing up. I mentioned it with the Santa Claus. That's also a movie that like me and my brother watched in July. When I was like a little kid, we would just watch it over and over.
It's a Muppet movie. You can watch a Muppet movie whenever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we wore out that VHS.
100%. What's your next pick?
Well, again, I think that you took them up at Christmas Carol from me. We kind of like set aside Elf as its own thing. So like those are the movies that I feel like I watch every year. But next thing on my list is not something I necessarily watch every year anymore, but it is not unlike the Santa Claus. It's something I watched a lot as a kid and loved as a kid, and again I watch it today and it holds up, and that's Home Alone. We mentioned it earlier. Again, Home Alone is I think the things I liked about it as a kid, the fact that it stars a kid and it really like kind of genius in like capturing a kid's worst fear being alone and having burglars break in, but like taking that tension and making it and bringing you the catharsis of that tension. It's really good at that. So like I think that kind of what I was responding to as a kid, and obviously there's a ton of slapstick and stuff as he gets the best of Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. Like there, so again, there's a lot for a kid, me in particular, to enjoy, but also as an adult coming back to it, it's really well written and really heartfelt, and it's like a great execution of a great premise. John Hughes wrote this. Like I don't know if everybody knows that. But
I've
like
seen
a John
there
Hughes
was
movie.
a documentary on Netflix. The movies that made us.
Movies that made us.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, the movies that made us.
When I was watching that, the episode on Home Alone, I was like, "Holy cow! I did not know John Hughes wrote this." And you can see it once you know it. It's like, "Oh wow, yeah, this is very much in John Hughes style, but written for children."
Yeah, and I think he probably wrote it in like a weekend or something. He was like famous for just cranking out these unbelievable scripts in a aggravatingly short amount of time. Very prolific guy, and it's really great. And it's kind of I guess entered the conversation again this year because people are just now realizing that Moira on Schitt's Creek is also Kevin McAllister's mom. I don't know.
That was the first thing I noticed when I started watching Schitt's Creek.
I mean the Catherine O'Hara. The Catherine O'Hara disrespect to not realize that she's had a 30-year career before Schitt's Creek, that's a different conversation. But yeah,
kind of fits the character for Schitt's Creek, though, that people have forgotten her previous acting.
Kevin, amazing, and I love Joe Pesci. Like I saw this long before I ever saw Goodfellas, but now I've seen Goodfellas a billion times. So the fact that Joe Pesci was in both of these movies within like a 1-year span is amazing to me.
He was killing the game,
and yes. I think actually was his run. Let me think. I may have my years wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Goodfellas, Home Alone, and My Cousin Vinny was that in like a 2 or 3 year span?
I mean, we have the power to check that. So let's.
Regardless, what a run for Joe Pesci. And then Casino, a couple years after My Cousin Vinny, he just he was killing it.
Home Alone, like I said before, is one of those movies that I watch every year, and I think in large part it's because of like we've talked about the spirit of these movies, but also just in general, even the villains are fun in Home Alone. So it's
absolutely,
and they're great performances. I mean, they're overacting a little bit, but that's in the spirit of this movie, and it fits.
It's a kids movie. Yeah,
I love everything about Home Alone, and in particular, John Williams' score. You could say the words Home Alone, and I can hear the music in my head from that movie. It's one of yeah. Well, anyways,
fantastic.
John Williams means more to me than a lot of movies. Just the music that he wrote for those movies makes so many of the movies. And Home Alone, somehow the fun of the story and everything manages to reach the level of John Williams' score for that movie in my mind, which makes that movie just so quintessentially awesome.
Fantastic.
I did pull up the IMDb for Joe Pesci, and I'm looking.
Was Home Alone 90?
Yeah, same year as
91?
Goodfellas.
Okay, so those came out the same year. Then My Cousin Vinny was 92, I'm pretty sure.
92 was
and then
My
Casino
Cousin
was
Vinny.
95.
Yeah, he also was in JFK in 1991. So, pretty good.
Wow.
Pretty good run
Jeez,
there.
Man.
Pretty good run there, Joe Pesci.
Attaway, Joe. All right, what's your last one?
My last pick for one of my favorite holiday movies. I actually watched it for the first time this year, and I loved it so much that I'm adding it into my Christmas rotation. I will watch this every year. Wow. It's called Joyeux Noël. It is a foreign film, but it's a movie about Christmas in World War I, the first year of World War I. And it follows a story of the Christmas truce. I forget what the exact name of it was, but it was a real thing that happened at multiple points along the trench lines throughout that time period. At Christmas, they would have ceasefires, and at least for this first year, I don't know if that continued all the way through the war, but apparently it happened at multiple locations on the front. And in this one in particular, it follows a group of French soldiers, a group of Scottish soldiers, and a group of German soldiers. And the characters are unique and interesting, and it was nominated for Best Foreign Film the year that it came out for Oscars.
When did it come out?
2000. I think it was 2005 is when it came out, so it was 2006 Oscars.
Okay.
Or maybe it was 2006 and then was in the 2007 Oscars. I forget.
Sure.
But so like it's a great movie and it's a war movie, but it is another movie that captures the Christmas spirit, and that's in this genre something as gritty and serious as a war, and shown like people are dying, people are being shot in this movie. So this is not your kid's Christmas movie, but it is unique in the genre of Christmas movies. And as a fan of war films and a fan of Christmas movies, this movie just totally clicked for me, and I definitely recommend it. It's beautiful.
Sure. Well, now I really want to check it out, because that Christmas Day ceasefire is like a something I've been aware of, and I've always thought there needs to be a movie about that. I didn't know there already was one. But yeah, like so I haven't seen the movie, so I can only speak to like the history that I know. But I know that like to kind of elaborate on what you were saying earlier, like on Christmas Day in I guess 1915 or 1914, early World War One. The German soldiers in their trenches and the French soldiers in their trenches like kind of just like agreed to stop trying to kill each other on Christmas Day, and then actually like came out of their respective trenches, like met in the middle of no man's land, exchanged gifts, and like played soccer together and that kind of thing. Like the people who were trying to kill each other the day before and would continue to try to kill each other the day after set that all aside for a day and like were enjoy each other's company, which
we're
is
human
wild.
again for a moment.
Yes, yeah,
and
that's
part
a
of
wild but really cool thing. Yeah,
and that's part of what makes it match so well with the overall spirit of Christmas, is because at Christmas everyone's trying to be their best selves, and even in war, that's an important thing. And I think it's a more serious movie than most Christmas fare, for sure. It's heavy.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love
I remember when I was in high school, we had like a Christmas like concert kind of thing or whatever, and like it is like an interstitial. A friend of mine who was an actor came out on stage and read an actual letter written from the trenches about that day, and it's basically just a firsthand account of like what went down and how great it was, and it's just very strange, but also it's nice to hear that kind of thing, I guess. Like in the middle of a war, they stopped and, like to your point, were human for a day. And despite the fact that I heard that letter written 15 years ago when I was in high school, like I still think about that from time to time. And like that's
powerful stuff.
So like that speaks to the power of just the true life story, and I imagine the power of the movie as well. So I definitely will have to check out this movie for sure.
Yeah. The other thing that I will say, not related to Joyeux Noël, but when you were thinking of these lists, obviously I really loved Klaus, because I brought it up in our first episode about underrated movies.
First episode,
yeah. So that's another one that is part of my Christmas rotation now, that cracked that Christmas threshold, despite being so
in that
new.
case, I just want to shout out the SpongeBob episode of Christmas where they all write their letters to Santa, and Squidward has to give out all presents to all these people. Shout out to that episode of SpongeBob.
Shout out to that episode of SpongeBob.
I used to watch that episode every year Christmas as well.
And now I might
Santa's
as well.
coming tonight.
What's funny about SpongeBob is you and I were definitely like older than we should have been watching SpongeBob.
Disagree.
Hey, I'm not no judgment here, man. I watched a ton of SpongeBob.
It debuted when I was 9, so like I was right in the pocket, but like I continued. I was still watching it in college, and me and my roommate in college.
I was gonna say I watched it well into college, so
yes.
it wasn't like a weekly.
Yeah,
I wasn't sitting down and planning my day around it, but if I saw it was on, I'd be like,
best man at my wedding, the best man at my wedding, and I was the best man in his wedding. So much of our relationship is just saying SpongeBob quotes back and forth to each other. So.
And in the end, isn't that the true spirit of Christmas?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so
does that wrap up our Christmas discussion?
That's wrapping up our Christmas discussion here today. We're going to be off for 1 week due to me traveling, and since I'm not flying right now because of COVID, I'm driving, so that's a 2-day trip. So I won't be. We're gonna miss 1 week, unfortunately. But then we're gonna come back for the new year. We have a whole bunch of great ideas. We'll talk about 2020 in review. We're gonna talk about anticipated movies. All that to come in future episodes of Remember the Film. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, write reviews, tell your friends. Just do all those wonderful things. Do that as a Christmas gift to us, please.
That's all I want.
All right. Well, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that jazz, and
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
We'll see y'all later.